or I have my own pen and paper game, or I have my own small like web game thing that I like to contribute to, and those things definitely score points in your favor. So really, it's like it depends on what you're doing. If you're if you're trying to get a job in the game industry, you need to learn the right skills. So you need to actually be able to, if you're a designer, you need to know data formats like JSON and XML. You need to know how to deal with large amounts of data, and you need to be able to do, actual work and schedule your work. Or be schedulable. You then need to have a good foundation of game design theory. So, if you actually understand, you could break down a game, and not just in terms of like what the game is, but like break it apart into its mechanics and understand that sort of thing. You need experience. You need to have actually worked on games, because it's a much different thing saying something like, oh, I need to get the player to jump. You need to understand all the mechanics that are involved with that sort of action. Otherwise, you're going to be making a lot of mistakes that people wouldn't. And then having a good foundation, like, I don't know what, I haven't gone to any game design school stuff, right? So I went to engineering school. I worked for EA, yes. I worked at EA and Redwood Shores down near San Francisco for about 3 or 4 years. On BioWare, I worked on Dragon Age Legends, some Mass Effect stuff, and Dawngate, the MOBA that got canceled after being an alpha, or public alpha. And the people we hired for game design positions, I think almost all of them were people who had been interns, who we liked and brought on, or people that other people knew from previous work experience. So it's pretty much, if the first line of hiring is always, hey, we're going to post a new job rec for this new level designer position. Do you know anybody who would work? We'll bring them in as soon as possible, because as soon as you have headcount, like, you just do it. I'd probably have to play your game to know if you have a chance. I'd probably also have to look at like some sample stuff. Like, if you have a sample project that could be sent, that always ups your chances. Probably, I don't know. If it's just a run-of-the-mill interview, it's actually pretty rare for people to really look at your, like, even as an engineer, to actually look at your sample code. Usually coding tests and the rest are, if we don't know. I think design tests, I've heard of some kind of wacky ones. Well, they'll ask you how to design a game and do all that sort of thing. So the question, like, yeah, I know. I'm not a I'm not a people pleaser in terms of, I'm not going to tell you, oh, this is great, and then be like, this guy is fucking an idiot. He's never going to get a job, Be like, quit, go work at Best Buy. No, I'm perfectly willing to say that. So the question would be, how are your interview skills? Because interviewing is a massive skill, and if you suck at interviews, it doesn't matter how good of a project you got, you're never going to get in unless somebody just says, he interviews like shit, just bring him in anyway. Did I do set ability use? Yeah, okay, good. So I would say get started interviewing. Like for me, getting my first job in the industry was very, very difficult. I had gone through a 4-year university specifically for games. I was willing to move anywhere in the U.S., immediately. Basically I had, a mattress and a couch and a car. It's like, I will be wherever the hell I need to be for a job. I will go. I wasn't picky about price or anything else. And I had, a website. I had, resume all lined up. I had 4 projects or 5 projects to show off with games that people could play. So basically I had everything. And I had been interviewing before I even graduated from college for a couple months. And it took me a whole 3 or 4 months after college to find a job. So it was basically a half year of interviewing. So it took a half year of interviewing, lots of on-sites. I was about 140 different resumes. I think I had about 10 on-site interviews and a phone call, every other day. So it was kind of, order of magnitude sort of things. What did I do at college? A bachelor's in real-time interactive simulation. So 4 years, engineering, computer science, with a focus on games. So it was all, you made a game every year. It was a big project. That was not high school, that was college. I did not do any programming or anything in high school. High school, nobody gives a shit what you did in high school. Nobody in the game industry even cares really what you did in college. They just care what games you made. What did you do? Nobody's going to look at your report card unless you were like an intern or some shit. And if they're looking at your report card, you've kind of already lost the battle. I could give a shit if somebody got straight A's in their class. I want to know if they're going to show up and do the job. Yeah, I don't think anybody gives a damn about a degree if it's not like a game design or something else. They're just going to be like, all right, you're college educated. The game industry has about no respect for college degrees. Very much like we're self-made people, sort of thing. So, in fact, I think if you looked at somebody's resume and they had all this impressive stuff that they did in projects and they didn't have a college degree, it tells you a lot more about, this guy's motivated to do all this shit on his own. That's a good thing. So if you're saying you're good at interviews, but you don't know how the interviews work for games, I'm just going to say you're probably bad at game interviews then, because you've never done them before. Usually they're all day, multiple people, and sometimes you get ganged up on pretty bad. And they're all day affairs, and sometimes it doesn't stop there. So, and I think the game design ones usually, they kind of bleed out a bit more. I think usually they have more longer term projects and experiments that they need you to do. Go ahead and give you a question. Well, I don't know, I don't know game design questions. I didn't interview game designers. I interviewed engineers. So usually with an engineer interview, we would give them questions that were purposefully very difficult to see how people worked through a problem, because you want them to fail at it. Because you want to know what somebody does when something's difficult for them. So pretty much you'd start with because it wouldn't really matter, there were some basic things do you know how to program, and your resume is going to say that. But it's how do you deal with problems? Are you reliable? Do you just make shit up? Does the person ask for help? Um, so I would set up a hard question. I'd say something like, I'd usually start really easy. So I'd say like, oh, what's HTTP, TCP, and UDP in networking? Because you're a network engineer. What do you? And if they couldn't rattle that off real fast, it was pretty much like, I don't really want to talk to you anymore. And then we'd usually do like kind of a stacks and queues problem. Well, it would be more of, you know, somebody might ask you something like, "Can you define what a core loop is for a game?" And you say, "Oh, of course, a core loop is blah." And they'd say, "Okay, I'm going to give you, what game do you know? What's your favorite game?" You're like, "Oh, my favorite game is this." Or like, "Okay, I don't know that one. Do you know this game?" And then, "Yes, of course I know that game." Be like, "All right, what's the core loop in that game?" And break it down. And why, like somebody would say, what's the difference between Halo and Call of Duty? And and it wouldn't just be like, well, one's in space about aliens and the other one is on the ground with not aliens. It'd be like, well, there's some core differences in like realistic weapons versus big blue balls of goo. Like shit like that. If you're in mobile games, they'll just say like, how many hours can you work? We all know, but now, yeah. And then they'd ask situational stuff. So they'd say stuff like, tell me about a project where you worked with somebody else and things were difficult. Like Amazon's whole star review system, which is like situation, task, action, resolution. Yeah, mobile gaming should be in quotes. So it's very helpful, like even as somebody being interviewed, to know about the star system or their kind of tactics, where pose a situation, what was the actionable task, what actually happened actively, and then the resolution, how did everything finish. If somebody asks you a question about stories, that's usually, if they don't ask those follow-up questions, answer them yourself. Mobile gaming is, I can't say I'm an authority on mobile games because I'm not an authority on mobile games, but I don't play mobile games either. My phone is for texting and calling people and email. Yeah, you can join the Brackenwood Discord. I don't know what the link for the Brackenwood Discord is, of course. But I think that one's public, so you can join that. Yeah, neither do you. Anyway, I'd sum it up with, it looks like you're at the point where if you're trying to get a job in the industry, just start interviewing. And you'll find out pretty quick if you're going to make it or not, because either you get into some of those interviews and you get kicked out after the first hour. It's just like, ah, shit. But the most important thing is, like, you've got your ongoing project. I would keep working on that project, and if your goal is to get into the industry, just start sending resumes, getting phone calls, doing that sort of thing. If you're not getting any traction, or you're not finding any jobs that aren't already filled, then what you need to do is go to actual events like the Game Developers Conference. I think PAX and some of those are more popular for designers, like GDC and the rest is very popular for engineers and tech. So, I mean, yeah, one good way, you've got a product to show off, right? So go to conferences and get people, get a table, a small cheap table or something if you can afford it, and just have people play your game. And game designers that work at companies will come around, say hello, give you feedback, and if they like your game and they got a position, they'll ask you to work for them. So, like, I got a job not through straight interviewing and phone calls. Like, I got a job at the Game Developers Conference, drunk, in line for free beer after having been awake for over 36 hours and just exhausted. And I was just bitching at people who I didn't know, in a party I shouldn't have been in for, and I couldn't find a damn job. And, I just graduated and I was like, I just need work. This sucks. I couldn't make rent this month. I had to go ask my parents for a check, and that sucks. And the people I was bitching at were hiring a server engineer, and I was a server engineer. So they said, well, maybe we can interview you. And they did, and I beat the manager at Tekken, and then they had to hire me. So if you've got the product, you've got the skills, you just need to get in the shell game, start showing up. And you got the right idea with having something. It sounds like you're doing all the right stuff. Like, you're asking questions, you're curious, you have a product, you've got it. So just the big thing a lot of people do wrong with trying to get into the industry is think it's going to be easy, or they give up too soon, or they're just assholes and think everything's easy and rub people the wrong way. Like, there's always a better way to do stuff. A lot of the game industry is working with systems that suck and just putting up with it. So yeah, I mean, the biggest strike against you right now is I don't see any collaboration with other people. If you haven't worked on something with other people, why would I hire you to be part of a team? There's no experience, there's no track record of being able to follow directions from a team leader. So, I mean, that's the only thing you'd say, like, okay, this guy is motivated to do his own thing, but people like that can be very passionate, and there's a reason why they're working by themselves, and it's not going to be because like it's going to be for reasons like, maybe they didn't want to work with other people, or maybe they had bad experiences working with people, or they have their own idea, or they couldn't motivate somebody else to work with them, or maybe somebody was, and then they stopped working together because they couldn't deal with professional differences. Or it could be because, you were dating the person working on your team, and then you broke up, and then it was really awkward, and then, that would never happen to me. Anyway, I should get back to actually doing work here, I believe. And that's another cool thing. Like, you've actually got video and stuff like that on Twitch, and I assume YouTube, of you actually doing work. So I think that's kind of the next level of interviewing, is you wouldn't just send people like your prototype and everything. You'd be like, here's a video of me actually working. I think that might be the future of getting into some creative industries. It's not just going to be a portfolio site, but here's my Twitch channel, here's my Patreon, here's my... I already have followers. I think that's going to be more important in the future. All right, let's go to levels. Let's go to our prototype level. Okay, so what we want to do is, when this animation is finished, we want to Should ground pound is on animation end. So what do? If this is the ground pound intro, we play ground pound and we do ground pound falling and all that sort of stuff. So what we should do here is make a function. It's hard about showing people. From what I can gather, it shows you're passionate in what you do, but you have to show you're passionate. Yeah, keep going. Let me. Yeah. No, it's important, I think, for people to help others get into the industry in positive ways. There's a lot of companies out there that are just gonna be real assholes about everything, and it's never a good feeling to get taken advantage of. Like, I know some companies, like the Click Nation guys, they would hire people right out of college, basically do like the "you're ugly" sort of thing to a girl, and tell them like, "You're lucky to have a job here. This is the best you're ever gonna get," and that's just not true. All right, so. Alright, so we got our shot charge, and we're going to have to break off of this guy. Yeah, the other thing would be having multiple projects, such as if you're going to... I need a function here, which is going to be... not ground pound active 0, but the aim shot active. We'll duplicate. This will be start aim shot. If this is the aim shot charge animation, we're going to call unlock animation and start aimed shot. Actually, we don't have to unlock the animation. We can just call start aim shot. So, for instance, if you were going to be working on an RPG game or something like that, it may not really matter that you have experience with actually making an RPG game if you had maybe experience with RPG systems, like if you're making a card game or something like that. If you actually have like, here's a card game I made. I think a lot of designers in the industry right now have kind of a boner for card games and shit like that they make real complicated. So I don't know, make some stupid ass card game, get it printed out on like nice cards, and be like, hey, we can play this game, it takes like 10 minutes, I made it, do you want to take the time? And if they say no, then well, just pester them later. Yeah, I think people are more worried about the mechanics. Like, nobody's going to hire you as a lead designer off the bat. It just doesn't matter unless you've made like a big game. So probably, what you're more going towards is a rank and file designer. And what they care about then is they don't really care if you've made a horror game. If they're hiring you for a sci-fi game, it's like, well, is it a first-person shooter, or is it a card game, or is it, a tactical combat game? They more care about those genre archetypes than the rest of it, than the actual like story and atmosphere. And they're not going to hire you as like a writer or something else, because if they need a story, they're going to hire a writer. Or the lead designer has some in their head that they're going to use. All right, so let me see. Stop aim shot. We need to set these guys to zeros, or not zeros, but -1s. You wouldn't make a good writer? Not with that attitude. Yeah, one of the things that you see with a lot of people who haven't gone to college and want to make it into the game industry is a whole lot of, I have these great ideas. Like, when I went to college with some people, like, I remember one day I was walking to college with one of the guys on the team I was on, and he's like, I have this great idea I've been thinking about since high school. I'm like, oh yeah, what is it? He's like, oh, it's so great. This game idea is amazing. It's the next Tetris. I'm like, okay, what is it? He's like, well, I don't want to tell you because it's such a good idea. And I'm just like, you're full of shit, man. Or the people that'll show up. I have this great idea. I'll tell you parts of it, but I need like 3 other people to do all the other things for me. And be like, that's not how games are made. So you having actually your own project there takes you out of that category immediately. All those ideas have been thought of. Let's see. The unlock animation. I should just put that in here. No, I shouldn't put the unlock animation in there because I want to use it to clear the variables, but something else may have unlocked the animation otherwise. So we'll just have this. Alright, so I need to go to on animation end. We need to go to start aim shot. Start aim shot needs to set aim shooting to that'll stay true, and we'll set this guy to true. Charge anim, we're going to clear, and then we actually want to do the others. Yeah, your friend's girlfriend says she has an amazing story, but she won't tell you unless you're willing to work on it. Yeah, see, that's just bullshit. You're like, yeah, I've got this great sandwich, but I'm not gonna show it to you or tell you what's in it until you agree to eat it. Like, are you gonna say yes, I will eat the sandwich? You're gonna say like, well, can you give me some hints? It'd be like, it's a sandwich. Like, is it made of food that's edible and won't kill me? Well, I can't tell you that. I'm not confident in the sandwich. I gotta just throw that out there. Okay, so we don't want the charge, we want the other one, which is just called aim shot. I don't know, I think designers have a much harder road getting into the game industry. Engineers, at least, you can go to engineer school forever. And it's a lot more obvious, I think, with an engineer. If for at least entry-level engineers, you can kind of tell if they know what the fuck they're doing or not. For designers, though, like, there's a lot more opinion-based shit. Probably the same thing with artists, where you can tell if somebody can draw, but like, if they're a good, probably designers might be even worse because it's all abstract shit. and trusting somebody to do it. My Discord, I don't even know what my Discord is. It's just ambientenergy101. I don't know. Let me see. I mean, I think that's what my Discord is. I think that's the Brackenwood Discord link. Okay, so when that's finished on animation end, we'll unlock and stop the aim shoot. Alright, so we should see the two animations. Cool. Let's see. Alright, so I guess I should do a triggered for if it's down. So let's see, the player logic should aim shot. Let's do a is key triggered on the action as opposed to down, so I don't want it to keep happening. Yeah, if I didn't want to answer the questions, I would just stop answering questions. It's kind of one of the other things is for the project that I'm working on right now, you never know when there's a chance in the future that we might need a level designer at some point that can go rig up a whole bunch of shit. So it's always good to help people out in the game industry because it's such a small industry that you run into people all the time, and if they're like, "Oh yeah, you were that one guy who helped me out," and people remember it. All right, so let's increase the speed of that anim time here for aim shoot. Let's do like a 0.25. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the speed I want. Alright, so what about movement? We want this to just slow you down. So if I go to movement, alright, so if ground pounding is true, okay, if ground pounding is true, and ground pound recovery is false, and ground pound falling is false, set our direction to 0. Okay, so we want to do an OR here, which is going to be this, if we are aim shooting, and what that's going to do is it's going to say, okay, we can't change our velocity vector, so we want to see where, if we're ground pounding, we want to set our velocity in a direction. So let's see this, find references. A lot of functions? Yeah, this is the biggest thing in the whole game. It controls what the player does, so it's kind of a monster. I also started off wrong. I built this, I just fundamentally fucked up the system for making it, so I'm kind of just lying in the bed I made. That's kind of what happens when you haven't used Unreal 4 before. And you put everything in one place, you just get a big mess of a blueprint. I didn't use any sequence nodes, right? So like this thing is, I didn't read the fucking manual. I just started working, which is good for getting stuff done, but I definitely could have done things better. So let's see. Ground pounding is action overriding animation. Yeah, so we're also going to want this aim shooting. Set velocity change. This is ground pound falling. Set max vertical move speed. Okay, so yeah, this will be if ground pounding or aim shooting. Then make it so that we can't fall. Get ground pounding and movement velocity. So we're going to tend towards 0 very quickly. So let's see. I think there's other places. Let me just take a look. Yeah, and I'm gonna need to add bits for all this shit too. What is this? Is breaking stealth. Yeah, I'm gonna need this pin here for if we're aim shooting, we're breaking stealth. How'd you find working in different engines that's not made by the public, i.e. Snowdrop or Frostbite? I didn't get any training for Unreal 4. Just fucking around with it. What is this? So Dashkin movement object has a bit on it. Alright, so we're gonna need So how did I find, so this will be net, shoot. Where is this? Entity movement net data. Well, I didn't really use Frostbite. Well, no, I shouldn't say really. I didn't use Frostbite when I was at EA. We wrote our own stuff. When I was on Dawngate, the guys that The guys I worked with on Dawngate, they used pretty much all the code from like Darkspore and Spore. So working on kind of a proprietary engine, usually what worked, you couldn't really change a whole bunch, which kind of sucked. Usually you didn't really have a lot of shared code, so it was a lot of just, you'd hack stuff in there. Sometimes there were contractors you'd work with. Oh man, Adam handing out all the subs. Now you can spam the ambient upset emote, which is the best. It's the best emote of all time. You can express your disappointment in others, in any way you choose. What the hell is this thing? There's our net objects. Same shoot. Alright. So I need to check these files out. Get that in there. Sorry, I just want to make sure I got this stuff sorted. Stream is going well. Just Frosty has lots of questions, so I'm getting sidetracked, but that's fine. That's why we're here. So the working with a proprietary engine can be good, it can be bad. Usually it does one thing very well, like Spore and Darkspore stuff for Dawngate was really good for making very highly customized champions, which was very good for a game where, like, you have champions to sell, like in League of Legends. It was a MOBA, so, it works. A lot of game devs are heavy metal rock sort of people. I'm more of a trance, techno, electronic music sort of person. I mean, in the Bay Area, basically, it was just a bunch of, hipster bullshit, pretty much is what everybody was into. Let's see. So usually the engines, if you're working a proprietary engine, does one thing very well. And if you try to do not that one thing, things break. So like Dead Space transitioned from their own engine to Frostbite, and Frostbite is basically very, very good at making things look great. And, their whole secret sauce of the cutscenes are all in-game with real stuff and all this sort of stuff. You like your heavy metal rock too, so you should definitely get a job. Yeah. Yes, quite a few people when I was working, like one guy I worked with at EA, he was in a band, and there's more than a few people where you'll have somebody who's like got a band and they'll ask the band to do some music for him just because the dude's sitting right there. At least placeholder music or something. But yeah, so they had to switch from their Dead Space guys. Visceral had to switch from their own engine to Frostbite. Frostbite's very good at showing things that are all composed together very well. It's also very good with physics. Absolute shit when it comes to making dismemberment of objects. You don't hack people into bits in Battlefield, so none of that was in there. So they had to really fuck with the engine to get that to work. So it can be a real pain in the ass when you got a big company that comes in and be like, you have to make the game now using Frostbite. You can't use your own in-house shit. We've got this big movement for the things, and you've got to do that. So it can be a real pain in the ass. A lot of shaving yaks, dealing with broken build systems, and slow support on stuff. But it can work out in the end. Can you do my YouTube intro? Yeah, exactly. You're a game developer, right? Can you just make this game for me over the weekend? Thank you. Dead Space, they used, yeah, when they were trying to get people in for, I think it was Dead Space 1, what they did is they had all the artists and they brought them in and they just showed them people that had been killed from car crashes and people went home sick. Like, yeah, basically people dying and it was all car crashes and like all this horrible shit. And they definitely, people went home sick and were scarred for life from that. But as for working with a proprietary engine and all that stuff, like it's not really a big deal. Like it's just another engine to me at this point. Uh, it's just kind of the level of bullshit you have to deal with. Like if you're working in lumberyard, you're basically working in CryEngine, and there's a lot of shit that sucks. Unreal 4, I think, is probably the most well put together C++ engine that's out there right now. Do you think that was all taken from the dark web? No, I think that's all just out there. Just if you Google search a bunch of stuff for like car crashes. Also, when you're in the industry, in an industry, and you go ask for stuff, you could like go, you could phone the local police station and be like, "Hey, we need to do research on, dismembering corpses." Um, Police station would be like, "That's cool. Who are you?" And then they'd probably refer you to the local medical hospital and be like, "Yes, all this stuff is available." It's probably all in some library there, right? Star Citizen will be out when they stop getting money, so never. Alright, so we need to go back to the player. So let's see where we've got the rest of these. Clear move state bit field. Alright, so we'll have that. So where do we actually... Yeah, I think I have the bots actually use virtual controllers and all this other shit, so I'll have to figure out how to get this working. They're making like 30K a day now, man can dream. Yeah. I have not followed Star Citizen. I probably won't start following Star Citizen. I'll play it when it comes out. Like that sort of thing. People can show impressive, amazing videos of whatever the hell they want. I don't care anymore. Alright, so with the bot, Oh man, this is gonna be a real pain in the ass to get right with these abilities. Fuck. Getting this to work over the network is gonna be a bitch. Or it might not. Let's see. This should all be in a bunch of sequences. But yeah. But it's not. Alright, this is gonna be the aim shot. Next conference will be able to create this. You want to actually see the game? Well, the game that we got right now. This is what we've got on production at the moment. So we got Bracket Sack Early Access, all that sort of stuff. Log in. And we've got the multiplayer stuff, so we can make a game and play locally if we want to. And right now we've got 5 different levels. And we can spawn in bots and all that sort of stuff if we want. I just skipped over to the UI cool shit. Yeah, it's true. So I can end the match. So you can vote on stuff like adding and removing bots and all that sort of stuff. But you can vote on like what the next map will be. So I can vote, I want Stealth Crouch, Multi-Ball, in Howling Cavern, and it'll advance to there. That's Sticky Ball, which is just trash. But we've got dedicated servers that are running. So if you're online and you want to browse games, you can see all the different games that are actually being played. And you can see my game is still in the browser list for just a little bit. So people can join your game if you want it to be publicly hosted. Otherwise, there are plenty of official servers that are running a community playlist. Some of our people who support the channel and all that stuff have actually put together some playlists for maps. And then we also have the new single-player missions. So we have right now 70 single-player missions, such as, you know, these sorts of things where we can actually, we have, you know, a little bit of story, like difficult challenge develops advanced movement techniques and speed control, overcome the magical barriers, and collect all the bracken sacks as fast as possible. Looks like it would work on mobile, not without significant performance overhauls. So we've got, you know, a mission system for single player as well. So we can, you know, make some single player missions. Oh, I missed them. Why? Why do I suck at my own game? Yeah. So we've got like collectible missions and stuff like that. Yeah, I know we need to add loot boxes, so you get like a rank and all that stuff. So it's like, you beat it in 40 seconds. You know, you got master rank because I'm so good. So we have all these challenges, and we'll have a single player later and everything like that. But some of the other challenges are just like some basic ball training stuff, and then it pitch against different bots with different things like air goals. Like air jumps and stuff like that. So some of these, like there's an invisible thing over here where you can run over here, but if you hit the ball in, it'll blow up. So you have to punch the ball in. You know, just some basic tutorial stuff that we have with missions. So you gotta do stuff like that. So progress is coming along. So we got multiplayer and we got single player, and we'll be adding, the next big thing for us is we'll be working on story for the game, story mode. So we're definitely deep in doing all the cool things, hopefully. Cool, so that should do the network thing for the animation. How many people are working on this game? Just me and Adam. So I'm the only engineer, and he is the only artist. So that's our basic animation. If we boot up 2 clients, or 3 clients, why don't we try that? I did not mean to do this. I need separate processes. Use a single process, false, play as, listen server.